At 18, my father assaulted me and left me on the roadside for refusing to give up my future. You're nothing without this family, he told me. I reported him, went no contact, and vanished. 3 years later, I returned to confront him. Can you imagine your own father driving you to a remote road during a thunderstorm, beating you, stealing your phone, and then abandoning you in the pouring rain? That's what my dad did to me when he was just 18, because I dared to choose my own future over babysitting my entitled sister. That night, lying in the mud, I knew my life was over and that it was finally just beginning. This happened 3 years ago. I'm black, 21 now, and honestly, life is good. But that night still sticks with me, like a bad dream you can't quite shake. So, I'm writing it out, once and for all. I turned 18 pulgadas March. By April, I was paying $400 a month to sleep in the same bedroom I had since I was 6. 3 days after my birthday, Dad sat me down at the kitchen table and hit me with adult rent, $400 a month, due on the first, cash only. Food wasn't included either. Mom sat there, nodding, like it was perfectly normal. After that, every single month, I'd leave an envelope on the counter before I work. Dad would count it in front of me like he was just a tenant. I graduated with a 3.7 GPA, all while working at an auto parts store since I was 16. I wasn't lazy. I was having to get out. I had one goal since sophomore year, escape. I found a welding certification program in Ohio. It was basically my exit ramp. Full scholarship, stipend, 18 months, and a straight shot into a job if you didn't mess around. I applied in January of my senior year. Got the acceptance letter in May, 3 weeks before graduation. I read it 3 times before I believed it was real. That night, I made the mistake of telling my parents at dinner. My mom's face did that thing where she smiles with her mouth, but her eyes go flat. My dad just grunted and asked who was going to help around the house if he left, like he was household staff. He told them the program started in August, 3 months away. Plenty of time to figure things out. Plenty of time to adjust. That's when my sister Jennifer walked in. Jennifer was 25 and fresh off a divorce because she got caught cheating. Not used with one guy. Her ex, Miles, got primary custody, and she moved back into her old room like it was a long-term plan, because it was. Within a week, everything in the house changed. Jennifer didn't cook, didn't clean, didn't contribute a dime. But somehow, she had opinions about everything. She'd eat my groceries, mess with my laundry, and complain about my TV while Braden, my nephew, was screaming at 7 de la mañana when I was there. Then the babysitting requests started. Immediately. I need you to watch Braden tonight. I have a client. I need you to pick him up from Miles. I need you to keep him Saturday. I need you to take him to his doctor's appointment. The first few times I helped because, hey, is my nephew, and I'm not heartless. I didn't mind hanging out with him when Jennifer actually needed help. But she didn't need help. She needed a servant. Watch Braden to pick him up, take him here, she demand, covering her custody team. I helped at first, but it quickly turned into her using me like a built-in, unpaid nanny. She'd ask for 2 hours and disappear for 6, then act annoyed if I asked where she was. Don't you dare lecture me, little brother, she'd sneer. The worst was a Tuesday in early June. Jennifer asked me to watch Braden for 2 hours while she met a client. I said fine, but I had a shift at the auto parts store starting at 4. She promised she'd be back by 3:30. 3:30 came. No Jennifer. I called her 6 times. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. By 3:50, I was panicking. I couldn't leave a 3-year-old alone, and I couldn't bring him to work. I called my manager, Doug, and told him he had a family emergency. I wasn't happy, and I could tell my reliability was starting to look shaky. Jennifer rolled in at 7:30, over 4 hours late. She walked through the door with shopping bags, not even apologizing, just saying, traffic was crazy, and her phone died. I told her she'd cost me a shift and almost cost me my job. She rolled her eyes and said it was being dramatic. That's the word she loved. And my parents, they enabled every single bit of it. Mom would say, your sister is going through a difficult time, and family helps family. Dad would grunt about how real men step up when their family needs them. Neither of them ever asked their precious daughter to step up for anything. Meanwhile, I was 18, paying rent, working 20+ hours a week at the auto parts store, trying to save for my future, and being treated like the household staff. The scholarship program had a deadline. I had to confirm my enrollment by July 15 and arrive on campus in Ohio by August 20. Housing was errant, but yet tossing the paperwork. The stipend would kick in 11 classes started, but I need savings to cover the gap. I could do this. I used that to survive the next 3 months without my family torpedoing everything. So, I started preparing quietly. I printed my paperwork, signed what I needed, and packed the basics where nobody would notice. I kept my head down, worked, paid rent, and counted the days until I could finally leave. The intervention happened on a Thursday night in early July. I came home from work around 6, tired from a busy shift. Braden's booster seat was in Jennifer's car, which was weird because it was supposed to be Miley's week. She must have picked him up early. When he walked in the front door, all 3 of them were sitting in the living room, waiting like vultures. Dad, Mom, and Jennifer. We need to talk about this Ohio thing, Dad said, like Ohio was a disease they contracted. I set my keys on the counter and stayed standing. I wasn't going to sit down and get cornered in some rehearsed ambush. There is nothing to talk about. I already confirmed my spot. That was true. I sent the enrollment confirmation the week before because I could feel something coming. I signed the housing paperwork. I notified my manager at the part store that my last day would be August 15. Everything was locked in. Mom leaned forward with that manipulative soft voice. Honey, we've been talking, and we think it might be better if you deferred for a year, maybe 2 years until Jennifer gets back on her feet. I looked at Jennifer. She was still scrolling her phone, like this conversation was beneath her. Gets back on her feet? How? She don't have steady work. She don't pay rent. She don't watch her own kid most of the time. What's the plan here? Jennifer's head snapped up. Excuse me. I'm building a business. You have no idea how hard that is. You have no idea what I'm dealing with. Do you have any idea how much I suffer as a single mom? Yeah, but you're enjoying your single life without the mom part, I shot back. She didn't like that. I turned back to my parents. You want me to give up a full scholarship and stipend, plus the program's job placement pipeline, so I can babysit and keep paying you rent while Jennifer figures out new restaurants. That's Joe tightened. He had that look again when he's about to turn the conversation into a lecture. First of all, watch your tone. Second, this isn't about babysitting. This is about responsibility. This is about you thinking you're too good to help when we need you. I kept my voice flat. I've been helping for 3 months straight while paying $400 pesos a month to live in my childhood bedroom. Jennifer pays nothing. She contributes nothing. And you're asking me to throw away my future so she can keep doing nothing. Mom's eyes got wet. Says that her whole support system ripped away from her. Her marriage, her home, her stability. Says hurting, black. She needs us to, she cheated, I snapped. That's on her. She blew up her own marriage. So pardon me if I'm not feeling bad for her. Maybe you should let her face the consequences for once. The room went dead silent. Even Jennifer froze. She stood up, face red, and started screaming about how he was a hood-mental little brat who didn't understand adult relationships. About how he never had a real relationship, so he couldn't possibly know what it was like. About how Miles was controlling and emotionally unavailable and she deserved to be happy. Dad pointed at me. Apologize to your sister now. I didn't apologize. I walked to my room and locked the door. For the next hour, I could hear them talking in the kitchen. Dad's voice was low. Mom was agreeing in that soft murmur she does when she's backing him up without saying anything directly. Jennifer was crying. Probably milking the sympathy. I texted my best friend, Mason. Things are getting bad here. Family ambush tonight. If I don't check in with you by tomorrow night, something went wrong. I'm serious. Mason and I had been friends since 7th grade. We'd done everything together, school, summer hobbies, video games, all of it. His parents were good people. His dad was a retired electrician who did consulting work now. His mom worked at the library and made the best meatloaf I'd ever had. I'd spent all my school years at their house. Mason replied immediately, "What do you need?" I thought about it for a second, then typed out a plan. If I text you the word fine in all caps, that means I'm not fine. If I don't respond to you for more than 3 hours during the day, call me twice. If I still don't answer, call your dad and start looking. I sent back, got it. Sorry your location. I turned on location sharing. I confirmed the cold SIM on the map. Then I sent his dad's number in a separate message. I saved the number in my phone. Turned out that was the smartest thing I'd ever done. 2 days later, on a Saturday afternoon, my dad knocked on my bedroom door. His voice was different, softer, almost friendly. The kind of tone Yante heard from him in years. Hey, can we talk? Used to ese. Man to man. I think we got off on the wrong foot the other night, and I want to fix things. Every instinct he had was screaming that this was a trap. But some small, stupid part of me still wanted to believe my father was capable of being reasonable. That I might actually apologize for the ambush. That maybe we could work something out where he left for Ohio without nuking every relationship in my family. My father was an owl, yes. But gosh, I never imagined I'd go that far. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, he opened the door. I suggested we go for a drive. Said I always thought better when I was moving. Said I wanted to explain some things without Mom and Jennifer around to get emotional. Used to guys having a conversation. He grabbed my phone, checked the battery, 12%, sold be fine for a short drive. Grabbed my jacket even thought it was Juli because the weather had been weird all week. We got in his truck. The sky had been building all day. Dark clouds stacking up to the west. The radio weather report said severe thunderstorm warning for the county starting around 7 or 8 de la noche. It was maybe 4:30 when we pulled out of the driveway. That turned off the main road about 20 minutes into the drive, heading away from town toward the rural areas where the houses got sparse and the farmland stretched out to the horizon. Where are we going? He asked. Just driving. He kept his eyes on the road. His voice was still friendly, but there was something underneath it now. I want you to understand something, Black. This family has given you everything. Roof over your head, food on the table, a place to land whenever you needed it. And now, when we need you to step up, you want to run off to Ohio like none of that matters. But I been paying rent since I turned 18. I work. I buy my own food. I contribute more to this household than Jennifer does. That's not giving me everything. That's charging me to exist in my own family. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. We could have charged you more. We could have kicked you out the day you turned 18. Some parents do that, but we didn't. Because family takes care of family, and family means sacrifice. The rain started light at first, used speckling the windshield, then heavy enough that the wipers struggled to keep up. We were on a county road now, the kind with no lines painted and barely any shoulder. Nothing around bad cornfields and the Cachenel barn. I checked my phone. 1 bar of signal, 10 no bars. Dad, I need you to turn around. The storm's getting worse. You're not going anywhere until you understand what you're about to throw away. I pulled off onto a gravel access road that led to an old grain elevator. The kind of place that probably ain't been used in years. No lights, no other cars, nothing but the rain hammering the windshield and wind racking the truck on its suspension. Dad, I want to go home. I didn't answer. Just turned in his seat, face completely flat, and reached across the console. Grabbed my jacket collar before he could react. He tried to pull back, but he had 60 pounds on me, and he'd been doing physical labor his whole life. He slammed me against the passenger door. My head cracked against the window. He put my hands up, and he hit me twice in the ribs. Controlled. Deliberate. He couldn't breathe. The pain was immediate and sharp. He tried to open the door, and I grabbed my arm, wrenched it back hard. I reached into my jacket pocket and took my phone, checked the screen, 7% battery, no signal. I tossed it into the ditch, into the weeds where I'd never find it in the dark. Then I leaned across me, popped the door, and shoved me out. He hit the gravel hard, hands first, then knees. Rain soaking through instantly. By the time I looked up, his digits were already disappearing down the road. No words. No speech. Just gone. He was about 40 miles from home. He checked later on a map. No phone. No wallet, because I'd left it on my dresser. Rip screaming every time I took a breath. A storm getting worse by the minute. The first 10 minutes, he just sat there in the mud, trying to understand what had just happened. My own father had just beaten me and left me in a storm in the middle of nowhere. Like he was garbage. Like he was nothing. He looked for my phone anyway. Crawled around in the ditch for a few minutes. Hands in the mud. Rain hammering my back. Couldn't find it. I knew what I was doing. Location sharing was useless now. It only showed my last ping near home before the signal dropped. Once the phone got tossed, it was used as a piece of plastic in a ditch somewhere. He had to move. Sitting here wasn't going to help anything. He picked a direction and started walking. The county road had no shoulder to speak of, no streetlights, no houses visible in either direction, just fields and rain and darkness. He had to walk on the gravel edge and jump into the ditch whenever a car passed, which wasn't often. Maybe one every 10 or 15 minutes. Headlights would blind me, and then they began. Tailgates disappearing into the storm. Nobody stopped. It probably looked like a drowned rat stumbling down the road, or a crazy person, or both. Every step hit. The ribs were the worst part, but my whole body was starting to ache. I walked for over an hour, maybe closer to 90 minutes. Hard to track time when you're used putting one foot in front of the other and trying not to collapse. Finally, I saw lights ahead. A truck stop. One of those big 24-hour places with a gas station and a diner. I pushed through the door and the worms hit me like a wall. The guy behind the counter took one look at me and his face changed. You okay, man? Do you need help? I need to borrow a phone. Mine is dead. He handed me his cell without asking questions. I dialed Mason's dad. He picked up on the third ring. Mr. Enson, it's Blake. Something happened. I'm at a truck stop, Miller's Travel Center. Stay inside. Stay warm. We're coming. Un up. The clerk brought me coffee and let me sit in a bus. About 45 minutes later, Mason and his dad walked through the door. Mason's face went white when he showed me. We're going to the emergency room first, then the police station. He sat down across from me. Tell me everything. He told them everything. All of it. When he finished, Mr. Enson nodded once. We're going to do this right. Medical records first. Then we file a report. After that, we figure out the next steps. But for tonight, you're staying with us. Understood? Yes, sir. Their visit took almost 4 hours. They did X-rays that saw 2 bruised ribs on my left side. Not fractured, but close. They photographed the bruising on my torso, my arm where they grabbed me, the scrapes on my hands and knees and forehead. They checked me for concussion, and decided I probably had a mild one, but nothing that needed hospitalization. The nurse who did the photos was professional, but gentle. She'd clearly done this before. Domestic situation, she called it. A polite term for family members hurting each other. She gave me copies of everything and a report number, and told me the records would be available if I needed them for legal purposes. After there, we went to the sheriff's station. Filing the report took another 2 hours. He told the deputy everything. He asked if he wanted to press charges. He said yes. He explained that the case would go to the district attorney's office for review. They couldn't promise an arrest that night, but the report, combined with their photos and documentation, gave it this. He gave me a case number, a victim's advocate contact card, and told me not to return home alone. By the time we got to Mason's house, it was almost 3 in the morning. Mrs. Enson had waited up. She didn't ask questions, just hugged me and showed me to the guest room. He slept for 12 hours straight. The next few days were a blur of logistics and legal stuff and trying to process what had happened. I couldn't go back to my parents' house, obviously, but all my stuff was there, my clothes, my laptop, my documents, my savings and cash hidden in my closet. Everything he owned. Mr. Enson knew how to handle it. The process was called a civil standby. You requested through the sheriff's department. Officers accompanied you to retrieve your belongings. They kept things peaceful and make sure nobody interferes. We scheduled it for 4 days after the incident. Gave my ribs time to feel slightly less terrible. Gave the bruises time to really bloom into impressive purple and yellow marks. 2 deputies met us at my parents' house at 10 in the morning on a Wednesday. My dad's truck was gone, which he'd been hoping for. He didn't know if he'd been arrested or warned or what, but his absence made everything easier. My mom's car was in the driveway. He walked up to the front door with officers on either side of me. Mason and his dad stood by the car as witnesses. My mom answered the door. Her face went through shock, confusion, fear, and then settled on that fake concern she does so well. Blake, honey, what's going on? Why are the police here? I'm here to get my belongings. I'm not staying. This is a civil standby. She tried to block the doorway. Her voice got soft and pleading. I didn't mean it. You know how your father gets sometimes. We can work this out. You don't have to involve strangers in family business. One of the deputies stepped forward. Ma'am, he has a legal right to retrieve his belongings. I need you to step aside and let him enter. She moved, but she followed me to my room and took the entire team I packed. The deputy had told me beforehand, 15 minutes. Grab essentials. Don't engage with anything they say. Clean extraction. He had a mental list, birth certificate from the lockbox in my closet. Social security card. The folder with my Ohio paperwork. Laptop and charger. Clothes that fit into duffel bags. Work boots and PP. The casi de hidden in a jobbed out book on my shelf, almost 800 pesos in savings. Tools I bought with my own money, receipts still in the cases. Mom kept yapping the whole time. About how I was overacting, about how families fight sometimes. About how I regret this. I didn't respond to any of it. Jennifer appeared in the hallway about halfway through. When she showed the deputies, her face twisted into something ugly. You called the cops on that? Are you serious right now? Do you have any idea what this is going to do to our family? I kept packing. You're so dramatic. I barely touched you. You're acting like I tried to kill you. One of the deputies told her to step back. She didn't listen. Just kept going, calling me names, saying I was ruining everything, saying I'd always been the problem in this family and this just proved it. Ma'am, the deputy said, ferme this time. You need to calm down or we're going to have a different conversation. She shut up after that, but the look she gave me cold have melted still. I finished packing, walked through the house one last time to make sure I hadn't missed anything important. Stepped at the kitchen counter and set down my house key. My mom started crying. The performance of a victim. I walked out the front door and got in Emma Renson's car without looking back. The next 6 weeks were the hardest of my life, but also the most important. I stayed with Mason's family until I left for Ohio. They refused to let me pay rent, even though I tried multiple times. Mrs. Enson just said, you're 18 and you're going through something terrible. Save your money. You're going to need it. Mrs. Enson helped me set up a new bank account at a different credit union, one my parents had no connection to. Mason drove me to work and back because my car was technically registered in my dad's name, and he didn't want any complications. He gave my 2 weeks' notice at the auto parts store. My manager didn't ask too many questions. He just said that he heard something about family trouble, and if he ever needed a reference, he'd give me a good one. That meant a lot. The harassment from my family started almost immediately. My mom texted from her regular number at first. Long messages about how worried she was, how she couldn't sleep, how the family was falling apart. When he blocked her number, she started texting from other phones. Borrowed from friends, or a prepaid. Always the same tone, pleading and guilt-tripping at the same time. Why are you doing this to us? Don't you love your family anymore? Your father is suffering, too. She even sent flying monkeys. An auntie talked to in years called to tell me he was being cruel and breaking my mother's heart. A cousin messaged on Facebook saying they heard he'd gotten my father arrested. And did he realize what that would do to his job and his reputation? He saved everything. Every text, every voicemail, every message. The victim's advocate told me that documentation matters, especially if things escalate. My dad never contacted me directly. He found out later his lawyer had advised him to have zero communication with me while the investigation was ongoing. The criminal case moved slow. The DA's office took weeks to review everything. The detective assigned to my case interviewed me twice. Once right after he filed the report, and once about a month later. He said assault cases involving family members were tricky. Without witnesses, it often came down to physical evidence and credibility. My documented injuries helped. The medical records helped. My consistent story helped. In the end, they offered my dad a plea deal, misdemeanor assault, mandatory anger management classes, 2 years probation, no jail time. I took it because fighting it would have meant a trial and more scrutiny. It wasn't the justice he wanted. Part of me wanted him in a cell. But it was something. It was a record that would follow him. Yes, I didn't go to jail, but I lost the one thing I actually cared about: control, reputation, and the image of the man I pretended to be. He got the notification about the plea deal 2 months after he'd already started the program in Ohio. Ohio was actually good. The program was intense. Classroom instruction in the mornings covering metallurgy, blueprint reading, safety protocols, welding theory. Hands-on training in the afternoons, actually running beats and learning different techniques. Homework at night, studying for certification tests. It was a lot, but he was built for it. He'd been working and going to school simultaneously for years. This was just more of the same. Except now he was learning something he actually cared about. My roommate was a guy named Devon from somewhere in Kentucky. Quiet kid. Didn't talk much, but he always had coffee ready by 6 de la mañana and I never complained when he came back late from the training lab. We got along by staying out of each other's way, which was exactly what he needed. He lived cheap that first year. Rice and beans, peanut butter sandwiches, ramen when he was feeling fancy. He bought a used car from another guy in the program. Thing ran rough, but it ran, and that was all that mattered. I got a weekend job at a hardware store near campus. Not many hours, but enough to slowly rebuild my savings. Between the stipend and the part-time work, I was surviving. Barely, but surviving. The paid internship started in month 6. A fabrication shop that made components for agricultural equipment. Industrial welding, real work, 40 hours a week, plus the remaining coursework in the evenings. I was exhausted all the time. My hands were calloused. My back hurt. But I'd never been happier. The moment it clicked was about 4 months in. We had a practical assessment. Vertical upweld, 3G position. Instructor watching over your shoulder with a clipboard. Most guys in the class were nervous. Hands shaking, beats coming out rough or undercut. I set up my plate, checked my settings, struck the arc, and used let everything else go quiet. Steady hand, consistent travel speed. Watch the puzzle form and flow exactly where he wanted it. When he finished, the instructor looked at my beat for a long time. Then he nodded once and wrote something on his clipboard. That's a pass. Clean work. That word meant more to me than anything my father had ever said because he'd earned it. Mason and his dad in touch through all of it. Video calls on weekends when neither of us was working. He was doing community college back home, back certification program, still living with his parents but saving money. His dad checked in occasionally, too. Short text messages. Hope things are going well. Let me know if you need anything. The family harassment tapered off after about 8 months. I think they finally realized he wasn't coming back. Or maybe they just found something else to focus on. Either way, the messages stopped. The flying monkeys stopped. The silence was a relief. He finished the program with sig marks. Got hired full-time at a manufacturing plant in Columbus. Different company than the internship, but bigger. Better pay. Benefits. The kind of hope that actually builds into something over time. I moved into my own apartment. A studio, but it felt like heaven. I bought furniture at thrift stores. I slept on a mattress on the floor for 3 months until I could afford a bed from. I budgeted every dollar like my life depended on it because for a while it kind of did. Slowly things got better. The paycheck grew. The savings grew. The credit score went up. I bought a truck, used bad salad. Paid it off in 18 months. I started dating a girl named Cassie who worked in hospital administration. Smart, funny. Eventually, I told her about my history, and she never judged me for it. Your father seems like a narcissistic control freak. Thank gosh you left. I'm so proud of you, she said once. Mason moved out to Ohio about a year after he did. Got a job doing back installation at a commercial company. We split a 2-bedroom apartment for a while until he got his own place. Still grabbed dinner most weeks. Still at each other's backs. 3 years after my father left me on that road, I was 21 with a stable career, my own apartment, a reliable vehicle, and people in my life who actually gave a dang about me. Not bad for a kid who was supposed to learn his place. The call that changed everything came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was at work when my phone buzzed. Number back home, area code I recognized but didn't have saved. Something made me answer. Blake, it's your cousin Tessa. I know we haven't talked in forever, but something weird happened. I need a quote on some custom fabrication work for a project, and your company came up in my search. Then he showed your name in the employee directory. A small world, right? Tessa was my mom's brother's daughter. We'd been closer when we were little kids, drifted apart as teenagers when our family stopped getting together as much. She'd never been part of the harassment campaign after he left. She'd stayed neutral, which in my family counted as loyalty. We talked business for a few minutes. Her project was legitimate. Some custom brackets for a renovation she was managing. I told her I'd get her a quote and forwarded to her email. Then she went quiet for a second. Hey, I don't know if you want to hear this or not, but things got really bad back home after you left. Like really bad. I leaned back in my chair. Go ahead. It came out in pieces. She wasn't trying to guilt trip me or advocate for anyone. She was just telling me what happened because she thought I should know. After my case went public, even though it was just a misdemeanor, people in town found out. A small community. Word travels. My dad's employer didn't fire him, but they definitely pushed him to the side, passed him over for promotions he should have gotten, made his life uncomfortable enough that he eventually took early retirement, which meant reduced benefits. His reputation at church took a hit, too. Some people stopped talking to him. Some of the guys he'd known for 20 years started keeping their distance. He'd always been the type to care deeply about what people thought of him. Being seen as the man who beat his son and left him in a storm was not the image they cultivated. Then, about 18 months ago, he had a stroke. Not a massive one, but bad enough to affect his mobility on the left side. Arm don't work right. Leg drags. Speech is slurred when he's tired. He had to stop working completely. Disability covers some of the bills, but not all of them. My mom went back to work part-time at a grocery store to make ends meet. And Jennifer lost custody completely about a year ago. Miles had been keeping records of everything, every missed visitation, every time she dumped burden on someone else, every inconsistency in her schedule. The judge looked at the pattern and decided she wasn't a reliable parent. Gave Miles full custody with supervised visitation only. After that, she moved to Arizona with some guy she met online. Barely kept in contact with anyone back home. Basically abandoned her kid. So, your mom is alone taking care of your dad, Tessa said. And your sister is gone. And your dad is just broken, I guess, physically and otherwise. I thanked her for telling me, told her I'd send that quote over by end of day. We said goodbye and hung up. I sat at my desk for a long time, thinking about what she'd told me. Not feeling sorry for them. Not feeling vindicated either, just thinking. 2 days later, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but I figured I might as well hear what she wanted. Her voice was older than I remembered, tired. After 3 minutes of awkward talk, she finally said it. Blake, honey, I know we have no right to call after everything, but your father isn't doing well. I can barely walk some days. I can barely talk. I'm doing everything by myself, and it's so hard. I just thought maybe you could come visit. Maybe we could start fresh. Put the past behind us. I let the silence stretch for a few seconds before responding. You called me dramatic when you had bruised ribs, Mom. Silence. Blake, you sent relatives to guilt trip me and tried to cover up for what your father had done to your own son. And now that he's sick, suddenly you want to put everything behind us. She started crying. I never wanted any of this to happen. Your father used as a temper. He didn't mean to hate you. It got out of hand. He drove me 40 miles from home and left me in a storm after beating me. You're still twisting the truth. More crying. Then the real reason for the call came out. We're struggling, Blake. The medical bills, the house payment, the medications. If you could just help a little bit, just until we get back on our feet. You have a good hope now. You're doing well. I'm sure your heart won't let you watch us suffer like this, right? We read your own blood. There it was. 3 years of radio silence and the first real contact was a request for money. No decent apology. No, Blake, please. We read your parents. You can't just abandon us when we need you. You abandoned me first. I'm not giving you money. I'm not giving you anything. I don't owe you, you nap. That night hit different. Yeah. I cried a bit. It was mad. That old memory I'd been trying to keep buried decided to crawl right back up. Cassie found me sitting alone in the bedroom and she clicked it immediately. Blake, what happened? Nothing, babe. Something got in my eye. Yeah, sure. I'm not dumb. What is it? So, I gave her the short version. She just pulled me into a hug and held on tight. No words. And honestly that was exactly what I needed. A week later, I decided something. I drove back to my hometown because I needed to close the door for myself. His probation had ended several months earlier. No active, no contact order anymore. Legally, there was nothing stopping me from showing up. Mason came with me. We took his truck, made it a day trip. I didn't tell my mom we were coming. The house looked worse than I remembered. Paint peeling on the trim. Lawn patchy and overgrown. The whole place looked tired. I knocked on the door and my mom answered. She looked like she'd had 15 years in the tree since I'd seen her. Gray in her hair, lines around her eyes, thinner than she used to be. Blake. Her eyes went wide. You come. She reached out to touch me and I stepped back. Silence stretched for a moment. I'm not staying. I'm here to see him. She nodded. Let me throw the house to the back bedroom. They converted it into a hospital room, basically. Medical equipment. The smell of sickness. My dad was propped up in the bed. Left arm curled against his chest. Left leg useless under the blanket. Face thinner, gray, slack on one side from the stroke. His eyes widened when he saw me. Blake. He stood at the foot of the bed. Didn't move any closer. He tried to push himself up but couldn't. His good hand gripped the bedseat. He tried to say something. He didn't give him the chance. Don't wear yourself out. You're already tired. Son, please just hear me. He could barely get the words out. I'm so sorry. I regret everything. Sabe it. I'm not here for apologies, and I know dang well I'm never going to forgive you. Tears started falling, and I couldn't even respond. My mom was standing by the door, crying, too. I looked at both of them and felt nothing. I spent my whole life wishing you were different. Wishing you'd treat me like I was actually your son. I kept my voice steady. But you didn't. You treated me like a servant. You wanted me to know my place, and I did. I paused for a second, used to let it sit. Now you don't get access to the man you forced me to become. I said nothing, so I turned and walked out. My mom tried to stop me at the door. Is still your father? Can't you find it in your heart to forgive? I made his choice. So did I. He walked out and got in Mason's truck. The drive back to Ohio was quiet. We stopped for gas and thought at a truck stop about halfway. Mason asked if he was okay. He told him he was, and he meant it. So, tell me, have you ever been pushed to your absolute breaking point by family? What did you do when you realized you were truly alone? And was it worth it? Let me know in the comments below.